I'm Beniamin Mincu, and I'm here with my two agents, Lucian and Lucian. Very few people I see have discovered the voice mode and how good it is. I've done this either in the evenings or in the mornings, usually with the kids, where they get to ask something, and there's now a mode where you have the Santa voice. Ho, ho, ho.
I'm usually a very optimistic kind of guy, but I can see, the better it will get. It's like if you think about a vector of attack, having so much decisions and information make one or two services or corporations, even if they are good intended.
People would overvalue the fart coin by saying every person farts.
There will be more
grows.
farts than agent. The most used prompt, you're my German doctor. And also, so you can prompt and literally throw.
I want to live forever.
Hello, and welcome to the Full Chart podcast. I'm Beniamin Mincu, and I'm here with my two agents, Lucian and Lucian. Welcome, guys. I'll let them say some cool things, but I'll just remind you why we're here. We're building the most advanced tech that scales trust, truth, and human collaboration. And this is the front seat to the journey we're taking, where you'll just see some challenges, experiences, setbacks, a bit of a laugh, and some lessons, ideally, that we hopefully will learn at some point. So we'll share this all with you. Welcome, guys, and very curious how you guys are. If you've been following the entire AI space, to just prompt the conversation for my two best agents.
So first thing first, I think by the time we will publish this one will be Christmas or around Christmas. So I'll say either way, warm Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you.
To all the agents out there, and also to especially for humans. But on a funny note, do agents celebrate Christmas?
Depending what kind of agents, anyway. Maybe we should
Police agents.
I think when you say agents, you mean AI agents, right?
Yes, this time.
Then yes, AI agents don't celebrate.
Yeah, so this is a special. This is a bit of a special episode. It is around Christmas that probably it will drop. Probably a bit post Christmas. And we want to wish a warm, happy holiday to all of you. Hope you start playing with the agents, not my agents, but the agents in the different communities. Curious if, just as a starting note, you have some thoughts on the agent solution.
Well, I was not very familiar with the term agents. I mean, until recently. And I guess this is true for everyone. Maybe we'll discuss a little bit, even for me to understand a little bit what an agent is. I guess he's more focused on some things or specialized on some things. But I've seen some interesting stuff for that. For example, I was targeted by an ad like hire all your employees, and every employee is an agent. There is focused on one thing. One is HR, one is, copywriting, one is marketing. And with $100, you'll have 20 agents. I guess I'm not sure if the term in this case is used correctly. Maybe you will tell us more.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, this is really, really interesting. And of course, then this was just an ad. I was not trying, but then I read a little bit more about that. And it's definitely, we gonna see a movement where these agents are not just used, they will be used also on day-to-day operation or stuff, even creative parts that some smaller and even bigger companies. And maybe the last thing to mention here, I was discussing someone regarding UiPath and if they can make the move from, let's say, not sure if the term is correct, dump bots they had to smart agents or AI tools to do what they were doing. And this is an interesting stuff.
Interesting challenge, indeed. So for the listeners, we'll try to do three things today. First, dive a bit and clarify a bit what's happening in the AI space, some exciting news and so forth. Clarify, as you said, some terms, what agents bring that is new, what they're built on, and how they usually work. And then maybe some ideas around where this goes that brings us to the sort of deeper dive into how this applies to blockchain, where this intersection really opens up some new opportunities that are really exciting and will probably bring together a lot of the ecosystems in the space to just offer new solutions, new tools that would make the life of all users simpler, more interesting. And as you said, whether it's just hiring them instead of people or complementary to the people that you have, that will be a second conversation. And then the third conversation will be almost a kind of special holiday, 2-3 questions on the most
a song. We'll sing a song.
A carol, yes. After the carol, maybe 2-3 reasons on the most bullish things we see on Multiverse X happening during 2025. So, with this being said, I'll just lay a bit the context and then prompt you for some questions and thoughts. During the last no pun intended.
Prompting.
Yes,
I like
yes.
it.
No, during the last even 10 or 15 days, we've seen some very, very exciting news in the space of AI. Specifically, OpenAI has had 11 days, and today will be the 12th day, of releasing some updates to everything they had. But then also some new tools, some new ideas, some updates even on the business model and the way they generate income. And some of the key things that they've released were this. One update that they've unveiled some months ago, I think at the start of September, has now been fully released. Before it was 01 preview. So you did not have the full capability. It was also not multimodal. You could not embed other files in it to interact complementary. And so that is the most advanced model that they had with System 2 thinking. A very simple way to think about what we had in AI with LLMs right now was we had System 1, which are systems that immediately answer, almost like a human intuition based. They give you an answer based on what they know. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But what they've discovered in a surprising way was that if you do not force the system to respond at runtime immediately and give it some time, just as with humans, you'll discover that the answer becomes more qualitative, more interesting, more relevant to the extent that you give it more time. So when it thinks for 20 seconds, for instance, it usually gives a significantly better answer than the instant answer, but then also a significantly better answer than the 10 seconds answer.
It has anything to do with the multiverse and the speed of light and triangle and waiting for.
Yes, that's actually a good question that will maybe tie the conversation to in the, let's say, quantum space and what that news was. But in this space, it's literally that they've discovered that something that seems very intuitive, namely, you devote more compute to a certain question, gives enough space to the agent to then contribute to that answer. And so they unveiled one preview initially, which was this model with System 2 thinking. But the preview had almost like only about 70% of the quality of the 01 full model that was not unveiled. And now it's unveiled to everyone. But then they also made a very, let's say, smart move. Namely, they've introduced a new tier of charging where you don't use the normal $20 contract anymore subscription. You have a $200 subscription that enables you unlimited access to 01. So no limitations on the API and all of that. You can use it fully, but then also better context window and some really good improvements that enable the people that integrate
I was not
this.
aware. I'm still on the $20 subscription.
Yes. But I think this was all done, to conclude on API, OpenAI. This was all done almost as a grandmaster move, because first, when you hear about $200, you'll say, yeah, I'll stick to the $20, unless on the $200, they unveil a new model today, which is either O2 or O3, an even better model than they had before. And there was also a leak kind of the other day that they are either unveil O2, so a new model for thinking and reasoning and so forth, or GPT Epsilon. That would be the equivalent of GPT-5. So quite a few, of course, rumors, but they've been preparing this for some time. With the 12 days, it makes sense. And then today, everyone is very, very excited about what's about to come out.
Maybe not the competition.
Yes, not the competition, but interestingly enough, it was not only OpenAI that just escalated the arms race. So Google, in a surprising manner, almost released every day a new kind of update similar to OpenAI. So OpenAI, in addition to this new model, also released Sora, which was their text-to-video generator. This was also, let's say, unveiled initially more than 6 months ago. It was not out. They finally released it. And Google unveiled a version that is either equal or better almost immediately during the next day or during that day, just because they're forced to almost update that. They've also released Gemini 2 Flash, and Meta also released an update to Llama. So
no idea what those two are.
Yes,
Gemini.
Gemini is the thinking breakthrough of Google. So something similar to O1, but that is the Google version with a different type of breakthrough that is distinctive. And then Meta released not only an update to Llama, but also a breakthrough where they change the token currency of the LLMs into bytes directly. So the token currency was this kind of model that enables you to think that everything an LLM needs or is quantified is a token. The token defines the window, defines the data, and through the token you feed the LLM, and then through this token you know what units of data, information, and so forth it has. And there has been a very long discussion on how could you have a more base language that you really use for these LLMs to make them useful, interesting, and so forth. So to summarize, maybe just better models, faster. Some of the models that Google offered are free, for instance, in comparison to what OpenAI had. Meta also has them open source. So Google free, Meta has them open source. Google also makes them open source. So it's a very interesting competition between closed source, really advanced models, open source, and really advanced models, and they don't stop. Now, the most interesting part is what will OpenAI release today. And specifically, Musk has been building the largest cluster in the world for AI compute, and he's basically trying to scale from 100,000 GPUs from NVIDIA to 1 million. Now, that's, again, insane, but this just tells you that they want to lead the 2025 year with Grok 2 and Grok 3. Grok 2 has also gotten an update, and Grok 3 is their new model with the largest compute trained. They've been working on this for more than maybe 3-6 months, and that's just very, very exciting. Curious if you want to add something specifically on this, or we switch to the agent part. How this?
Sure. Maybe quick question: have you guys used Grok for anything so far? Like, what's it good for? Yeah. Like what's his edge? I've tried, for example, with some very simple stuff. So I've tried, for example, for quite some time to build a pipeline for my X feed to learn, export all my tweets, and then try to compose something more natural to attending my persona, and just suggest some content all the time. And so far, I did not found first anything out of the box. And secondly, I said, okay, before starting building anything myself, then why not just go and say, Gork should, I mean, he's living there, should have access to my public tweets. But surprisingly, he said, no, that's private information, and he's not able to read it. So I wondered then. I mean, that was my first case where I was specifically going towards his purpose. But yeah, I'm curious why would you go into a social media app like Twitter? It doesn't feel like the same way phone calls on Twitter would not, or X would not feel for now organic. Curious how you feel it, where you used it, if you used it in any way.
Never used it. I mean, I've seen it in the your profile on X, but my understanding was that it was used like a support agent inside Twitter, not actually like, I don't know, a general thing. Probably they have a different app, or I don't know, but I never used it, so I cannot.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I've used this several times, especially to test whether it compares with everything that OpenAI has, and whether it tries to bring an edge. Now, a few things. One, the first model was almost very similar to OpenAI, but they've tried to especially do the training without the woke bias. This was their, let's say, at least the sales proposition. Then in practice, they try to make the fun mode a bit more interesting. So whenever it answers, whatever it answers, because it's uncensored a bit, unfiltered, it offers you a more entertaining answer to the explanations. In practice, I've not seen something, let's say, especially strong, where you have an edge where you'd say, no, for this type of articles or tweets or whatever, I'll use this and make it better. But with now I see that they've introduced multimodal as well. So you have images and so forth, memes. They're trying to iterate on memes, ideally to make this kind of meme machine. And they've only recently unveiled the Grok 2, which comes to the point. The only thing to answer your question, the only thing where you start using it naturally, they're introducing this analyze with Grok. So whenever you tweet something and you want to proofread, you want to get a kind of conclusion, one, you can explain a tweet from someone else immediately. Just click on that and makes it simple and so forth. You maybe don't get the context, don't get the reference. And second, for the person, you get an analysis with some suggestions. I think that's very simple, but for now, I don't think it has a sufficient edge.
Cool. So no edge.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One thing to add here, what I'm seeing myself doing more and more is instead going to search something on Google, asking ChatGPT, because I have the information so directly.
I don't think
answer.
people ask on Google too much anymore.
Yeah, and this is probably, I mean, I knew this was one of the main reasons for Google to be scared, because if you see this change in behavior, and this will become like
second nature.
In a few years, it'll become like standard. I mean, you'll not even think about
next year.
Yeah, searching on Google. And it's crazy because now I see so much more, even telling my kids, they ask me something, I'm not 100% sure of the answer. I said, why don't you ask ChatGPT? And now, of course, I'm even myself, I'm starting to influence them, because there was this thing, STFG, search the fucking Google when you don't know something. Now is just go and I
mean, also the efficiency and the way to ask is, if compared to what it would take you to go through the same thought process, find the relevant articles, define the thought process maybe try yourself to find a framework. Like I give you a very funny example. So I needed a new topper for my bed, on top of my mattress, and then actually I'm always doing this kind of role model. So you're my advisor. You're a specialized advisor. What's the most advanced framework to consult a client? What are the questions that you need to ask in order to be very specific? And then I answered that and then gave him what I have and then told him what I want to achieve and then said, okay, propose tell me from a 1 to 10 scale where I'm located with what I have, why that, and then find me the relevant products. And actually I ended up buying actually specific. I also said, look, find me in my city, where can I buy this? Sent me the link, actually bought the product and sold it. Like literally that, and it worked. And I told to a couple of friends now, they did the same and found out that also their mattresses were about 60% efficiency or 45 or whatever compared to what they were looking for. And they said, look, crazy. I mean, if I would have, like you go on Google, you're first spammed immediately with tons of ads that it's not about the quality. There's no filtering on the quality, no guarantee on there is some, but I mean, if I pay much more on the ads and on the packaging, it's not necessarily that it
concerning.
It won't be rated and positioned based on the
pure quality
specs of if you boil it down to the specs. So yeah, I mean that's that. Anyway, maybe
this is a very useful just way for people to think about, because you can apply this to your advisor for buying stuff, your advisor for medical stuff.
I mean, also for medical stuff, I've also did that. So I'm literally doing like I call the most used prompt, you're my German doctor. And also, so actually you can prompt and literally throw.
I want to live forever.
Yeah, I mean, look, I always thought that if I would have the time, even I would think you're my personal advisor on life. Like, here's my schedule. How would you help me from a third person to buy the book? Assuming that you know all the books, all the best in class books, what would be in theory all the steps? Looking at my schedule to optimize and do this 10 times more efficient, and then help me break this down and just be with me on step by step. Like that. That's at least. And then once you solve that, then you can go and say, okay, I want to do.
This actually brings us very close to the idea of agents, very naturally.
Yes.
Because I think everyone, to your question and to your question before, everyone already has some use cases that are default with AI stuff. And you only think about, when someone asks you, you don't think about them the correct way. When someone asks you, where do you use it in your life? You offer a very different set of answers. And even with the kids, like there are some models, very few people I see have discovered the voice mode and how good it is for AI. And I've done this either in the evenings or in the mornings, usually with the kids, where they get to ask something. And there's now a mode where you have the Santa voice. The guy basically is there, ho, 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 just sharing some stuff and so forth. And you get to ask him about the presents, you get to ask him about thoughts and so forth. And it's extraordinary how nice it is for the kids. Just because the first thing that they come in the morning after they wake up, I want to talk with the Santa.
So maybe two things. So actually, Sam Santa.
Yes.
Just tweeted ho ho ho, and then said, "Oh, oops, it should be oh." Actually,
because of 0203.
Yeah, very funny. And secondly, actually, I just talked to one of my close friends, asking, "Hey, well, what are you doing in the spare time and so forth?" And actually, so he has kids as well. So he built actually a pipeline where he can talk and get the sense what the childs want to hear, what are their finest or most beloved stories, bedtime stories and so forth. And actually it prints books for kids, and had also built an API with a printing station where actually you can just prompt, say, okay, I want a fairy tale with whatever princess and so forth. And then in 24 hours you get a book home. right?
But the cool part is you don't need to print it.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
just
but
prompt it vocally, and then you get the story immediately.
No, but I mean, it's still
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Now, coming maybe a bit to the agent idea. So you asked, what's the simplest way to look at it, and maybe what does it actually mean? And the simplest way to think about what you had up until now on the internet was you had read, write, own. The own part was especially the blockchain, what the blockchain provided. And now you're probably going to see what will be called the agentic web. So just this idea of action on the internet. Read, write, own, act. And then act means exactly what Lucian was asking before. Suppose you have all this data, all this information, whether it's your calendar, your databases, and so forth, and you'd like someone to just take a look at that and give you either some new ideas, solutions, but then also to implement them. Suppose you say, hey, I want to not only create me an app that actually makes this automatic every morning for me, just prompts me about some questions, sees what I want, and then gets that done. Wouldn't that be cool? Definitely. You'll automate some things, get some ideas, whether it's just answering to emails, whether it's answering to people, or whether it's just writing code or creating something more creative. But the idea of taking an action and interacting with all these applications, not you directly, but someone getting maybe 80 or 90% of your stuff done so that you can only verify. Like, give me the best, you said, I want to buy something. Give me the best options. I only review it. I don't need to search around it. And then, do I like it? Yes. Can you help me with writing a draft of this email? Can you write me the first draft of a kind of application, or write me a song? Do something more nice, interesting, or creative. Curious if this either brings some interesting ideas to mind of what you would do, or at least clarifies what an agent should do.
At least it gives me a reason to reread the 21st century book from Yuval, because there were some interesting, not everything, but there were some interesting stuff on how this could change the world in this, of course, it will be in a few years. And of course, in my mind, I'm usually a very optimistic kind of guy, but I can see, the better it will get. It's like, if you think about a vector of attack, having so much, let's say, decisions and information people make on just, let's say, one or two services or corporations, even if they are good intended, they have checks, they are, let's say, not biased, they are trained on, depending on you are, it's still, we've seen just letting Facebook or some social media and letting the algorithm filtering some information, news and stuff like that, how can change people's minds. It's also it will be very, very interesting how this, it definitely looks very helpful, and it can be very productive on different levels and can bring a lot of economic value, can, let's say, free people of losing so much time. And of course, then is the question what you do with that free time. You're going to watch more movies, or you're going to travel more, or you create something more, but this is a different story. So it is going to be very, very interesting, but it's like now all the time when the technology comes, there is this apocalyptic way of seeing things. I'm not saying that, but it will be interesting because it seems that the power, it will be even more concentrated in those kind of components. It seems like there are 3, 4, 5. And then when you have also, as you mentioned, some open source models that can be used by, I don't know, China, Russia, or other stuff, then you get in a totally different kind of discussion. But my way for now to solve in my mind this problem is the Pandora box was opened. Now it doesn't mean you cannot stop the innovation. You cannot stop
unless you're Europe.
You cannot stop it. You cannot stop.
You cannot stop it in general, but as he mentioned, you can stop yourself.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see because definitely it's not. If we are talking about that, a lot of people are talking about that, and there will be some discussions, but it will be very, very hard to control it. But it's an interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look, the same way we had blockchains first, we specialized blockchains first. We needed to make them useful, make them fast enough, efficient enough, and so forth. And then once we have that, we started integrating them more and more in real life, where with all kind of financial services, and we're still doing that at a very, very fast pace. But the same way, I think also when it comes to models or AI was very much needed first to calibrate those models, make them be some sorts or reasonable enough in order to be used. And then once we had that, we are starting adding connectors to that, which is maybe going back to the first topic first, maybe that I'm not sure if you saw Samsung. So Meta brought a while ago the glasses, the new concept with projectors and some very, very interesting glasses that were actually challenging Apple's ones by a lot. So they're lightweight, again, the Ray-Ban style and so forth, with pretty much extended reality integrated with AI and so forth. And then actually Samsung just brought the new ones. So Google, in partnership with Samsung, even cooler one with some even lighter projection for extended reality, integrating LLMs and so forth through some link to that. So maybe that's also goes back to the connectivity part. Now, again, if we look maybe Apple with the Apple Intelligence, I mean, curious to maybe pick your brain on that. If you saw or managed to use any button on that, at least in real life, not like in the practical, same like Grok. I will be very curious. But
it is live from Apple?
Yeah, maybe just a second. I'll let you. And then actually that also goes to the connectivity part. And also when it comes to that, so you could have basically large, bulky agents with a lot of resources. Then on top of that, you start making them more efficient, specialize them, and give them like this brings us actually to the more interesting part, to the blockchain interaction and real life interaction with this kind of connectivity. And I think that alone has been, I think, the last weeks. And since we started the podcast, it was literally, I think, a progress of maybe scales of magnitude that literally most of the agents or most of the models can start interacting with what we have built now.
Maybe a few good ways to think about the levels of models is just this framing of you had level 1, which was just chatbots. This is what ChatGPT was. And you had this for now a long time. Level 2 was just reasoners. So the O1 models and so forth that just reason very well, think a bit about things. Level 3 is agents. So they take actions for you, embedded informations and so forth. Level 4 is innovators. So they're not only doing what's obvious, but going a bit beyond the current paradigms. And then level 5 is sort of organizators. So in organization, you have an entire
Skynet.
Yes, an entire Skynet of individual agents that just take different approaches and so forth.
There was a project actually, Skynet, years ago, if you remember.
Yes,
the Skynet from the Terminator it terminates all the humans.
So also, I think from Harari, there's also, so it's cool that we have this kind of breakdown, but there's also, so AI, AGI, and AUI, that will be alone, I think, multiple hours of discussion.
I agree with Sam. He said something very simple. We should retire the term AGI because for the next years, there will be so much value in figuring out what human level intelligence really means. And you'll just discover that actually a difference between the reasoner and the innovator is so drastic that with one, you can mine everything that exists. With the other, you can go and invent a bit of a different chemistry.
Yeah.
A different physics layer, a different computational layer, which I think is extremely, extremely valuable. And to the Harari book, I think Harari had one good book, and the rest were water. literally just trying to retell the idea. And also,
Which
I
one?
dislike Homo sapiens was the first one, and then Homo Deus and all the other ones were literally the biggest whitewash, nothing too much of a substance. And also, he's too much of an apocalyptic guy, where a historic guy should try to be more objective. So he tries to make it a bit too, let's say, emotional, too much of an emotional porn.
Yeah, that's why the 21
rollercoaster.
lessons is not no history. It's just something that could happen. That is, no one knows if it's going to happen or not.
Yeah, but coming back to the point, because you mentioned, so we have this model, we embed new types of data into it, whether it's the internet data and so forth. There are some things that people try to solve when it comes to scaling the context window so that you don't have small data window. That's one. Second, memory is one of the most important things, because if it serves me and has a memory, then it's a great breakthrough. And then efficiency. Can I push more compute and so forth?
I mean, less compute. Get more output, more accurate, and less compute.
With more.
And this is when it comes, I think, what it is not stressed enough, that agents is not just general LLMs, and they're purely like, if I can drop a part of the memory, like if I'm a mathematician, can I drop the art design training data set from my context that I'm not going to use it either way. So this is basically what's I think is going to be a lot more, and it is actually happening. That's differentiating a lot of the context of or the data set. So they figured out, hey, you don't need to waste the same amount of GPUs for a very trivial problem, for a very trivial question, where, for example, for a very philosophical one, and I'm looking to the master agent here, to actually which uses 10 times more compute than
and gets you stuck.
He needs to think. Let me put it this way. So this is, I think, also very, very much is not just pure adapter. So I'm very much stressing it's not just the connectivity, it's not just the input. It's also, and it's not just more compute.
And also, it's very interesting how the models break down, right? Because they can reason about, for instance, poetry. They can give you some poetry, but then when they try to initially reason about mathematics, which is super precise, they could not differentiate between that.
That's they're missing the hallucination part.
No. But what's interesting, because people were always very critical.
Weren't the poets actually hallucinating when they were writing?
I think this is the most interesting part. People see let's say the LLMs and agents, and just say, no, this is breaking and so forth. But if you look at humans, most of the humans, when you see someone that doesn't have critical thinking, what do you usually talk about? You talk about them not being able to differentiate between the contexts that are lax, open-ended, creative, and precise, and super strict and concrete.
Maybe just their input was always biased, or they're just blind.
Maybe they were not trained, because this is the thing with the model. So one of the breakthroughs is using very specialized data to just train your mental model. And whenever we were discussing, for instance, about books, even in everything we were building, I noticed that there was a good prompt before trying to discuss a problem. Finding the best book on a subject, it took me some time, but after I shared it with everyone, the context was provided, the mental model was trained, and then the discussion becomes very relevant, because otherwise you're discussing about some things that seem obvious, but they don't connect at all, right? They evoke something else in your mind, and in your mind, and in my mind.
Also, same like with agents, like if it is, even if I read it, we all have read the same book maybe 10 years ago, it's like you remember everything what's in between.
Context. That's working memory. You can think about working memory as context.
So I have, by the way, I've been thinking a lot to what would be an idea of a startup if I would start or had enough time to build something that is very crazy and actually, if it would be to at some point to have some sort of a model that will represent me as an adult or afterlife and so forth, that will think, speak, and try to be as much as possible like we are. And assuming that pretty much everything to the
The startup would be called Heaven.
No, that's a as a good joke, maybe just for context. That's the upload. From upload. No, but what would be the most accurate version of training such an algorithm, and how would you provide actually the data? So assuming that, for example, during my lifetime, I would be able to collect and
collect my thoughts.
No, just see and hear what I was actually inputted during the entire lifetime. Don't you think that you might get to the same, knowing that everything is like you everything that I'm actually telling now, or it's influenced by an input, right? So it's not
100%. So
unless you're dimensional and you hear the voices,
schizophrenia.
But that would be actually if there would be just a simple way to just record the entire lifetime, I would be very curious how wide or how far would it be able to reproduce the output of a human.
I think it's almost interesting that for most of the time, whenever people refer to philosophy, they refer to some base layer tools that help you dig into your compute module. So you just become aware that you have this training data. What is your training data? Well, the environment, the school, the books you've read, the people you hang out with, this is your training data. I can predict very easily what will come out of it based on a certain training data.
Assuming that, as I said, you're first, without actually needing to actually sort it in any way, just collect everything and play it exactly in the same order.
That will be very cool. And that will be, I think, one of the most interesting things that people will look at because of the, let's say, psychological effect.
At least just have a time box. Imagine that you cannot do that afterwards. So just have yourself I will carry on moving forward the camera just to to record you all the time, just to make sure that don't
camera recording my thoughts
like lawyers do with voice memo.
A funny joke, and then we transition to the blockchain part and multiverse X part. There was a funny joke. We had a lawyer with we had a lawyer in Germany, and he was a very nice guy, but very old, like I think 70, 75 years old. And he was the funniest experience in the world because I met with him. We were discussing a case. We were discussing what he's doing, and I could not stop laughing mentally, like in my mind, because the guy said, so we met, we sat down, and then the guy said, he asked me something. I was answering, and then he said, stop 1 second. Started the small phone, lesson number 5. He says this, and this. Stops the recorder. Then please continue. I say something else. Lesson number 5. Lesson number 6. Please correct the other point. Because it was a very, very funny thing. But when you said it right now, it just reminds me of this guy that was collecting all his thoughts and the others' thoughts.
No, I mean, curious how you see it. Just as
I think technically it will be doable. Not sure how valuable it will be for everyone to.
It will be a data problem.
No, but how would you be producing a model that will allow your grandchildren or grandchildren to look and interact with the wisdom of the oracle?
Yes, and I'm not sure how valuable it is. That was.
I mean, at least like an Aladdin, you can at least from time to time bring it up. He would cheer you up, say some good jokes.
Grandpa Lucian. What would Grandpa Lucian say?
Yes, I mean, look.
It comes to the idea of living forever, and you want to be able.
It's just a version.
He can evolve beyond when the data is.
Let me maybe
same
show
like
you
human. If you're not feeding it anymore.
No, but I will. It's very easy to state an app that will exist probably in the next 2
So by the way, I'm
years.
Already working on this.
Yes,
I'm not sure. This is
not to be disclosed. This is not to be.
I'm already.
So the neural interface, Neuralink, would provide you not only that app, but in your mind.
No,
I'm just saying.
I mean that it's cool that you can literally move a cursor and so forth, but it might get to a point. But I mean that's a bet in itself. Wouldn't this be just a secondary bet? I mean, instead of the camera here, instead of having the chip here, I'll put it here with the camera.
I think what Ben is trying to say, the inner thoughts are also very, very important for some people.
But I mean, 100%. But I mean,
when you have several voices. How do you collect the other voices that never surface?
Look! I mean, with the algorithms that we have today, especially on the method, they can predict your inner thoughts when it comes to relationship or stuff that you like and so forth. But I mean, knowing even more simple stuff that actually trains you, and this is just simplifies, I think, the math a lot.
Yes, I think a good way to segue into the blockchain part that follows up to the points is this. We've discussed a bit about the breakthroughs that are coming in the AI space, the new updates, technological and so forth. The US is making some really strong bets to actually attract all the big players there. But there's an even more interesting version of agents that is just exploding at the intersection of blockchain and AI.
FBI agents.
Yes, FBI agents. Those were exploding for the last 100 years. But the agents that we're seeing right now in the space, I'm curious if you've played with them and if you've seen specifically that there's versions that just enable you to trade, for instance, enable you to do some actions around financial optimizations, financial planning, and all of that. Agents that just enable interactions with different applications generally, and agents that are literally hires, interns that you could take on, that you would hire for some specific positions. Curious if you've played with any of these agents and you've seen something that is specifically attractive.
Yeah, so maybe just to go to a bit on the quite the other side of the narrative. So I'm not sure if you do remember first the Amazon, the story on the San Francisco when Amazon rolled out the AI checkout. So they basically had some cameras and so forth, and they said, look, this is like a prototype. You can just walk out with the groceries and you'll get a checkout bill on Amazon. So basically what happened, and they turned out to be pretty much a fake at the time. So there were some models trying to do that, but there were a bunch of guys in India that were actually checking their cameras. Now, when it comes to going back to hires and just saying, hey, there's going to be, but I think there's just an oversell at this point with hires and employees and all. It's cool. I mean, we'll get there in just a matter of weeks.
Isn't it an oversell to hire people? More of an oversell?
No. Just to calibrate and put it a bit down to earth. It's, again, my own view, and it's just going to be most probably until the next year or just 2 to 4 weeks until we'll get more substance in this phase. But at this point, I mean, it's sure you can get and tell him to turn on and off a light. Or make it blue or whatever, but not. I would not say it's quite reliable enough or substance enough, and also resourceful enough to make it less expensive and less costly than other models.
Okay. Any thoughts? Have you played with anything?
Not sure
this?
If I play with the agent without knowing. So if it's not correct, I mean, for example, I played with trying to create a persona and with a specific voice that you can reuse. And then based on that voice you can reuse. So clone, you can clone, and it doesn't exist. So it's creating from scratch, but you give some, like you give from images, give some prompts, and you play, and then after you have this that you can reuse depending, not everywhere because they in other services, but then it's this persona without using any video or cameras with a person is to give life to this voice. I mean, to have a face that it's reusable, but with the technology that is out there for the normal people. Because I know there are some for example, there is a band in South Korea that it's virtual artists and stuff like that. And it's, I think for the audio part, it's almost there. I mean, this is for the video that is more complicated than images. It's almost there. I mean, something that is available with the subscription of a few
Sure.
10 below $100, something like that. You can already start that, and probably I'm not sure if they were agents, but definitely
Yes.
there are services that are really focused and trained on these kind of things. But probably it's. But other than that,
Maybe I'll take a bit the opposite, let's say, view of this, and take one example. So there has been this example that was called. I knew about it. Let's say from when it started, it was called AI16Z. So it took the idea of basically stating, let's say, Mark Andreessen is one of the best investors in the world. We will beat Mark Andreessen with an AI agent tool set, and will do so starting today. So what they did was they created a DAO framework. It called you can take a look at this on DAOs.fun, where people just can put in some money, and they use an agent to start trading and multiplying the money faster than almost they would say faster than through any other option. Of course, you could do it through memes, you could do it through any other mechanism. And what happened was this tool that initially was only focused on them generating income was, I think, 20-30x. So from nothing, $10 million exceeded the $1 billion valuation. But then they also did something even cooler, which is create a framework for agents that enables blockchain interaction with any type of tool. One, creating tokens, selling tokens, trading tokens, doing all of this, and merging the tool sets that you have such that you can use and plug in the best LLM model that OpenAI just puts it out without changing anything. Just plug and play it, and it becomes much better. And then we've just unveiled something the other day. By the time we finish this podcast, we'll have unveiled the Multiverse X growth games that just puts some bounties for the best builders to take this type of tooling and build on it and integrate it in any type of applications that they're doing. But to state, I think this speaks much harder for some people than anything else. To state that the guys have started from nothing, almost as a joke and game, and then exceeded the $1 billion valuation, and it's really working, and have now become the #1 trending repo on GitHub, most used on GitHub, largest number of stars during the last weeks, is absolutely extraordinary as a starting point. Now, there's still a lot to be improved to your discussion, but
when it's trading, I'm only think about Taleb is, 90% of traders after 10 years, they lose their job. So I'm curious after 10
the agents will still exist.
Because they have like 9 years of history, like beating the market, but then they lose everything.
Yes.
So maybe just to give all the credits when it comes to the connectivity of the models to the blockchain and so forth, 10 of 10, and I think it's critical and will be critical down the road even more with any kind of specialized reasoning and understanding about what those blockchains are, what the data on it is, and so forth. However, when it comes to the valuation, I mean, isn't the fart coin also above $1 billion?
Yes, but that's the question. That begs the question: is there, because this is an entire conversation. One, is it more valuable for people to discover this type of tools, or is psychological weirdness more valuable to people just because of psychology? That people would overvalue the fart coin by saying every person farts. And they say that, and the price
more
grows.
farts than agents.
I mean, that's a crazy puzzle in itself, right?
But I would do an Taleb agent that would bet against all those
agents.
All those agents. Oh, this one that you mentioned.
Not the fart one.
Just not die before you can.
Yes. And secondly, was the $1 billion generated from the profits on trading, or was it appreciation of the market on the narrative?
Both. So that
and
100%, there's a kind of correlation. They continue. You have a clear overview on percentages of what they have in their fund, sort of. And they have several partners that just come in, contribute. This is very fluid to to say the least. But all I'm saying, and then let's come a bit closer to Multiverse X, is this. The entire conversation right now is there are at least 5 to 10 frameworks that each make it very clear that you can do all of this. And blockchains will fight to get the mind share of agents on their applications to explode the activity, to just enable simpler interaction, enable simpler building and so forth. So the question is, we've unveiled let's speak briefly about maybe growth games, and probably after, once we are ready with this to be unveiled, we will have unveiled another big news about something that is integrated. We've spent some time and is really cool for all the builders in the ecosystem to enable this type of agents. Curious if you have some thoughts on what people should build on this front.
Going also to Multiverse X before that and warming up the discussion, we just finished a hackathon, internal hackathon, where many of the teams here, I think there were more than 60 or 70 people participating. Agents. Yes, people participating over a 24-hour hackathon, where I think 7 or 6 of 8 or 9 projects had different AI integrations in there. And I was, I would say, lucky enough to see with fresh eyes some of the challenges that brings, and how this would be translated less into less fancy words, and again, bridging, hosting, spinning up those models, connecting them over APIs, putting them in a queue or pipeline. So I mean, this helps, I would say, and I would challenge and say to all engineers to just spend one day specifically. At least for me, it helps. I think giving me 10 times more understanding from doing stuff and just playing with them and so forth. This is, I think, no rocket science, but that calibrated me a bit and gave me a lot more clarity on how this could work. But also on the bullish side, I think the building the knowledge inside the team with this kind of technology gives us specific edge on when it comes to what would be relevant for Multiverse X to become one of the strongest projects. And I have like a thesis here before, maybe just a short one. So I've seen like, which is also a challenge, which I'm maybe hope to get some of the feedback from you. Like there are two. In my head, there are kind of two ways of connecting those agents to real world. Or blockchains. Either you build a module, which is kind of those frameworks where you provide all the logic or capabilities to sign transactions or interact, read states from the blockchain, or read states from a specific chain or whatever data source you want to put, or assuming that you could learn on the fly the model, or you could provide the documentation needed on the fly for a model and say, hey, you go to this documentation page, read it through, and then provide me a transaction body, for example, for a specific chain, which it will be, if the documentation is good enough, it will be on the fly, be able to just reason and build it out. And I did that, for example, also Multiverse X with the smart contracts. And actually, immediately I understood that either one, our documentation page was not good enough, and it could not help me just write step by step. Also, maybe again, some insights was going through Cursor AI. There's basically this kind of chat, and there's the builder, or I'm not sure what's the second tab. It's both on the right side, or composer. So with the chat side, with the composer, actually it went just through the previous existing learning data or training data, and it had the documentation version of at the beginning of 2024. And then through the chat, it could go and read the new documentation and find the up-to-date version that was almost there to help me put this the task in place. Now, curious how you see this. Where are those complementary? Are those putting or helping achieving the task? And I also have and then I'll let you then the with the last question I have. Wouldn't the documentation be more helpful for all the LLMs, knowing the same way the Google crawler was coming to your site and you were inviting and preparing with sitemaps and all that kind of stuff? Actually, building a sitemap for the agents where you invite them through your house. Hey, please come to my living room. Here's the basement. Please go through this. And then structure in such a way where they will, by the training, when they will collect the training data, they will by default know how to reason about any kind of technology that you want to plug in. So it's a large context, but curious how you see this. And this is actually something that I think Multiversix will work towards a lot more very, very soon. But
yeah, so to answer your questions, one, this just shows how critical and how challenging it is to provide the right kind of context, and that if you cannot translate this context in what the agent perceives and ingests, then you're dead. You cannot reason, because the reasoning is just the steps that you take on the data. So formatting the data with the right kind of breakdowns, the right kind of context injection, the right kind of way that still keeps that context, because it may be too large, it may be difficult to read, it may not be clear actually, because you have some things in your mind, but those were never downloaded in the documentation. If you cannot do that, that will be the biggest limitation to harnessing this power that you have. And I think the entire web, this is why it's called the agentic web, because the first step before action is you'll almost have, you know how you have for autonomous cars on the road, a different type of sign that needs to be updated.
I already put on the Multiversix website a text file, agents, please look here.
Yes. So this is how it will break down the information, make it very simple. There will be also services around this, just helping you make it much more specific, as you had with search engine optimization specifically. But to come to your question, I think this is the first, almost easiest challenge compared to some of the other things that need to be solved. Because once you have this, if they can reason and you have provided the data, it's crazy how fast it gets you unstuck in whatever you're trying to do. So translating even what a transaction is, translating what the contract says in plain English for a simple person, I think this is the breakthrough that is very simple to unsee or translate if you're technical. Because if you're technical, let's say you understood already part of it. Now you're trying to dumb it down and see if it can reason.
No, so what I wanted, I wanted to play the dumbest guy. So I wanted to just say, build me the simplest smart contract and deploy it on chain. I don't want here's the documentation. Just tell me what to do. I'm not even going through the agent to the framework that will translate actually into the auctions. Just wanted to see if the steps that were provided, and the cool part is, as I said, the most interesting part is that imagine that you don't need to retrain himself if you do the work right from the beginning. When they collect the data the same way Google index you, it just knows. So that's that's
a superpower.
Yes.
And to your point, coming to Lucian a bit, so we had this hackathon. The teams were there, and we wanted to take this step that we're taking now with the ecosystem as well, to bring the knowledge in the ecosystem and almost force everyone to take the step, play with the technology, because then they'll discover that they are geniuses. The second day, once you sit and play a bit with this, it will just bring to you so many opportunities that will simplify your life. You will gain in productivity, and speed to market would be compressed significantly. So it was great to see people struggle a bit, look at how this interacts and connects. showcase both what they understand, what they don't understand about this, but then also showcase where we can improve tremendously in terms of documentation and maybe other tooling. Curious, Lucian, if you've seen this part in practice, have taken a look at how the agents might interact specifically with the blockchain part, and have anything that, let's say, you're excited about on this front?
Like some similar with something I've seen during the hackathon is in this kind of portfolio management where you leverage some of decisions or all the decisions to an AI. This is not something new. They used to be called before the AI robo whatever. Now with the AI sounds a little bit better, I guess. So this is the only thing I've seen like in real life. I'm pretty sure there is more on that, but I've never seen something that actually works better than
what you did before.
Your
agent.
Then a version with not using that. So
it's an algorithmic trading better. So instead of AI just doing the math, like algorithming and so forth,
making decision faster and stuff. Because there is a different way of building something using AI. It helps you write code, check code, or whatever, connecting or do whatever. This is also very. I'm not diminishing the importance of this. Or having a component of AI that is part, let's say, of the solution that service or product is proposed. This is a little bit very different story. And definitely probably there are other use cases where you have hybrid combination.
I'll just make a joke and some stories. So there were the guys actually working on the portfolio part, and they had a risk metric analysis when it comes to deploying some strategies. And then they wanted to say, hey, build a strategy that is very low risk and so forth, and he ended up buying USDT, just some stable coins.
the lowest risk in their definition.
Funny enough. And then I would say actually the if you want to even lower the risk, the agent would have exited crypto.
So maybe coming to the point of almost concluding, because I think we've looked a bit at what the AI space looks like. Agents, what they mean, what they bring, what are some of the challenges right now. We are definitely taking a big step in this direction with the entire ecosystem, just inside the team, making sure that everyone has played with the technology, looks at it, learns how it can improve their lives. But then secondly, making sure that there's the context through the MVX growth games for people to build, to accelerate and launch things, specifically focused on the AI lens, how the AI part just enables better interaction in DeFi, better interaction with wallets, better interaction through other modules. And as I said, by the time this goes out, we'll probably also have announced something extremely cool about how you can, during that day of the announcement, immediately deploy agents on Multiverse X and get them to play and do stuff that you could not do up until this point. So very, very excited on that front. Conclusion, let's say the concluding part would be, we're closing the year, and I'm curious, what are the 2-3 most bullish things that you would look at for 2025, Multiverse X and in general, that people, just you personally look at, and then people would be able to take away and look at?
Yeah, I mean, just closing the year, we're kind of, by the time we're...
Closing the year is super bullish.
Yes. No, by the time we're recording the podcast, actually, the markets are bleeding one more time. But this is also very bullish. This is, if we look at pretty much all the previous Lucian is the oracle on that a lot more than me. But from what I heard this from a friend, actually, that this is actually the default process. And I think also that kind of hints us to the story of EGLD. It was always the underdog, always unpredictable, especially when it comes to the growth potential. And I mean, starting with just going with the initial story, starting with 5 mil, getting 10 bill, it was not obvious at all. And people would have questioned us all the time. We would have questioned all the time the potential of it. And then this is, again, I think, pretty much seems very similar to every single time that until, and I also have the saying, until everybody doubts it, it won't happen. Like unless everybody doubts and nobody believes it, then that's when actually it happened every single time. Now, with that in mind, also I'm very bullish that and also grateful that the builders also have kept building, and I think during this year we had a lot more projects with extreme good substance compared to just not only the number, but also when it comes to DeFi ecosystem. I think it just 10x on all the fronts. The protocol roadmap and execution has also come extremely far, and I'm also very bullish on, I think, becoming perhaps a market leader in almost any metric in 2025. I mean, also economically speaking, I think the tooling that is coming out. Also, we just going back again to the hackathon, we worked on some very interesting connectors when it comes to liquidity providers, the market making, and so forth for activity on chain that will come out as well. So there's literally a tremendous amount of stuff that has been built and accumulating. And I think 2025, generally speaking, just looks amazing. I mean, I'm all in.
Lucian?
I'm really excited about what will come and what can come is for some simple reasons. We have everything we need in place, and very interesting, at least for me, and is something that I'm thinking a lot about, is a little bit not playing the same game everyone is playing. And once you have all the, let's say, this Lego things
Blocks
in place, and of course with AI, with agents, with a very, let's say, lateral or different idea, including AI agents and stuff like that, you can go beyond the existing market. Mm-hmm. Of course, doesn't mean you don't want to address to those users. But what I'm trying to say is, with a very, let's say, combination of a different idea and good execution, timing is also important, but let's say 2025 is good timing, not only because crypto and stuff like that. You can play a different game that can change things really, really, really fast. And now we are in the position where you have the blockchain, you have people building, you have some documentation or a lot of documentation, you have wallets, you have everything in place. And this, what I'm trying to say, because you had a question, what we should tell people to build. I'm not going to tell anyone what to build. You have to build something that you believe, is the entire story. But the interesting fact is you can also think a little bit different that could change things in a different way. And this is the things I'm most bullish, because it's this saying, riding the wave, you can ride the wave, but you want to be the wave.
Yes. I also confirm with that and say, looking at the most solid projects on Multiverse X, we did not tell them what to build. So they literally took and lead by example. I mean, just confirms that, and I salute him, and also more than happy to back this kind of narratives.
Maybe I'll to share a few of my thoughts. Just building on playing it different, playing bigger and playing different. I think this will be the ideas for 2025. There's a meme that I will probably post during the next few days. One is, it shows year 2024 and then a big fire on top of it, and then 2025, the guy walking toward 2025. And in some sense, we've made progress. In some sense, we've achieved some important milestones and so forth. But I do believe that 2025 is that type of timing that can change everything. If you play a different game, if you play a bigger game, and one US, I'm hyper bullish on US, and in some form or another, with Multiverse X will be there during January. Immediately as it starts, I'll return to the US. Been preparing a lot of discussions there, a lot of things that are on the ground that were not ready to be announced. And as soon as there's a conclusion, we'll make some announcements. But I think the big deals, the big opportunities will happen in the US very, very, let's say, very significantly. And this is why Multiverse X will be in the US. Second, I think AI will just be this enabler and accelerator across everything we're doing. So even if people do not build rocket science, the fact that you can, through the chat, work easier, interact with the chain, make the transactions, trade a bit, even learn that something doesn't work, will just be a great enabler. And I think Multiverse X as everything, it really needs to take this to the limits.
Yes, we're actively working on not just trading, but actually building on top of Multiverse X should be default. Like you could just tell the agents
what they need to do, and they'll do it.
No, you just tell what you want to achieve. They should know what to do it and how to do it.
Yes, those are some good agents.
You remember Battle of Nodes? Should have Battle of Agents.
Yeah, yes. Man. I mean, let's do it. January.
Yes.
I propose a bet of good.
Yes. This
you and me.
Yes.
I will bet on both of you. And then the third point is also, as you said, the infrastructure can be taken to the next level, and we want to take what we are building to the frontest line, at the cutting edge in terms of performance and enablement, so that you can deploy the systems immediately on Multiverse X. And so the releases that we have planned for 2025 will do a lot for builders to build simpler, better, and leverage this type of architecture. Maybe last note, the entire ecosystem is looking at what new ideas they can harness, how they can embed this kind of things in their game. And I'll take what you were saying and say just this: it's extremely important for people to take what has come to the timing of fruition right now. Like if it's AI, to take it, leverage it, and just bring the user. Because 2025 will be all about distribution. Like if you can bring another 1 million users, that's better than almost anything. If you can bring 10 million users, that's better. If you can bring better deals just connected in the market and so forth, we want Multiverse X to be connected with all the ecosystems, the big ones, all the chains, the big ones. And this is why we've been building some of the bridges, even with, for instance, Axelar and some of the big partners, because they enable this type of thing. So, concluding thoughts, maybe one line, and then we break it to the people.
I prompt Lucian to say the line.
Yeah, I'll end with a question: how far we are from the singularity of AI? I'm curious, but we can leave the question open, and probably next time we'll have the answer.
We answer it next time. Yeah. So happy holidays, guys. It was really great connecting and sharing some thoughts and so forth. Hope you enjoy the holidays. Get some time to connect with the people around you and with the agents around you. Please do that, and just let's take things to the next level.
Bring some presents to the agents.
Thank you, guys.
Happy holidays. Happy holidays.